There she is, friends, Girona. We finally made it after our Montserrat detour for a week of exploring the local trails and getting to know this fascinating, incredibly well-preserved medieval Catalonian city. Well, hey there, sports fans. We are here in Girona, Spain for the week, and if you've followed around some of the videos in the past, then you would have seen that we spent all of May in Spain, based out of Caldes de Estrac, and while we were here, we took just one night actually up to Girona and really loved the look of the town. It seemed like it could be a great base for cycling, but especially trail running. So we made sure to plan a little bit of time this year in the winter when Berlin is, frankly, dreadful, absolutely miserable, makes me want to throw myself off the side of a cliff because of the darkness and it's just not my thing. So we made sure to spend a little bit of time in Girona to see just what it's like here in the winter, and most importantly, to go explore some of the trails that we missed last time we were here. So, got the oats here, gonna eat up, digest, and start exploring the trails. And one last thing I wanted to mention before we get going is that we're spending the week here thanks to Little Home Girona. They're a family-run business that owns some apartments here in the city center of Girona. Right now we're staying, I think we're pretty much in or just right at the edge of Barrivel, which is the old medieval Jewish quarter. So also if you follow around some of the videos, you know that I like to explore Jewish history, and I always kind of find myself ending up staying in old Jewish neighborhoods or buildings that have some kind of old Jewish affiliation, so very appropriate for what I do. So big thank you to them for hosting us for the 5 days that we'll be out here. So far I can already tell that it's going to be a great base for walking around in Girona, but also having access to the trails, and so I'm excited to finish up these oats and get moving. Kick things off with an easy 12K with about 450 meters of elevation, looping around the forested outskirts of the city. This area is part of the broader Gavares Natural Area, a forested mountain range that extends east of Girona up to the edge of Costa Brava. Out here on our first trail run around Girona, and absolutely loving it so far. It's everything I dreamed of and more. You've got a mixture of steep terrain, technical terrain, but also plenty of runnable trails so that if you just want to go, you can go. The trails aren't as diligently marked here as in, say, Germany or Switzerland, so I'm piecing together routes using a mixture of apps where people have posted their hikes and runs. On day 2, we head out on a similar run, this time a bit more northeast for an 11-kilometer loop with about 420 meters of elevation. The plan is to get a feel for the trails around here before setting out for the big run of the week, a 30-ish kilometer romp with about 1,200 meters of elevation up to Rocacorba. But more on that in a bit. For now, I'm just happy to be outside, wearing sunglasses in the winter because the sun isn't just some theoretical concept, and stop by some of the historic sites along the way, like Castel de San Miquel, with remains of the 15th century castle and a medieval watchtower where you can climb up and take in Girona and the surrounding Gavares. All in all, it's easy to see why so many endurance athletes and simply fans of a more tolerable winter come to Girona. But not everyone is thrilled about the influx of foreign tourists. Keep your eyes open and you'll notice more than a handful of signs asking tourists to kindly buzz off. Last May, a band of locals came together asking the city to crack down on illegal tourist apartments and to reduce the overall number of tourists visiting the city. Most blame the influx of cycling tourism. Tens of thousands come here for cycling holidays and to train, bringing in tens of millions of euros to the city. But anti-tourist activists claim that local businesses have closed in favor of tour operators and bike cafes. As per usual, I don't know what the right answer is here, but as a growing admirer of Girona, and as someone who would like to spend more time here, I do hope the city is able to find a way to ensure that everyone benefits from the region's growing popularity. The last thing any reasonable person would want to see is locals being sacrificed at the altar of overtourism's mighty dollar. Euro. Today is the day. We're up and moving relatively early to hop on the bus up to nearby Banyoles. We made it to Banyoles, and now we're going to run up Rocacorba after we warm up.
I'm nervous.
Rocacorba is almost exclusively known for its connection to cycling. The roughly 12-kilometer road climbs 800 meters from Banyoles up to the peak. To do it by foot or trail is not something that's advertised just about anywhere. All right, we are on the move towards Rocacorba. Was able to get off of roads pretty quickly in Banyoles over to the lake, and now out on some farm roads that, trail adjacent. It's nice and compact under the shoe, but because this is kind of a patchwork trail, just looking at different apps, seeing what people have done, talking to somebody at the Rocacorba store in Girona, we'll see how much of this ends up being runnable trail as we work ourselves 1,000 meters up to Rocacorba. On trails like these, it's easy to zone out and bask in the glory of being outside with fresh air and sunshine. The only problem is, it's just as easy to miss your turn. All right, so we've already had our first detour. We are running up along this trail, and it looks like you just keep going, and as we've seen so far, there's not really any trail marks to speak of. But then we got to the top of this nice long climb, and it said we were off course, and we came back down and found that right there. That's where we were supposed to turn, so we're gonna get back on track. But this at least looks like runnable trail. All right, second missed turn on the run, but this one is on us, not on Catalonia or Banyoles or Girona. We were charging up this little incline. I could see the top, so I wanted to push and ran right by that sign for Rocacorba. So I actually got to turn here and head up again. Now, if I were a betting man, I would bet that this road here, with this little Looney Tune curve, is where the cyclists come up to Rocacorba. But our journey continues over there. Now, if you find that you've underpacked for the ride or run up to Rocacorba, fear not. One of the mountain locals has got you covered.
Fanta, agua.
Let's check it out. We opt for an orange Fanta to save for the top of Rocacorba. Getting close to the top and got off a little bit on the trail, but caught ourselves quickly. The marker does point to a different direction, but we see these little stacked piles of rocks that make me think, somebody's done this before. And it's trail-ish here as we go up, so I'm feeling reasonably confident that we will get up to Rocacorba sometime today. Getting really close to the top of Rocacorba, and now you can see it off in the distance. Looks like we have a lot more climbing than we should. We've at least gotten back on some runnable trail, keeps hopping off and on the road where you can see some cyclists going by. The wind is definitely picking up. I have a feeling it's gonna be pretty windy up there. Finally, the trail dumps us back onto the road for the final 400 meters through the wind and up to the one and only Rocacorba for a well-deserved Fanta. Cue the cheesy inspirational music.
Remember that little Fanta fridge?
Oh, I remember the Fanta fridge. The dogs were barking. Not sponsored, but it could be.
Call us, Coke. Call us.
But not really, because your entire organization is a contemptible shanda draining our planet dry. And now back to the manipulatively inspirational montage. Unfortunately, the descent proves to be, well, less inspirational. So we had a little bit of a nice descent, but we've got one last climb now, just 150 meters or so. It's a little bit of bushwhacking here, but that's okay. We gotta get down, so that's what we're gonna do. Some light scratches and cuts later, we make it back to familiar paths where we can stretch our legs and finish our jaunt around Rocacorba. Over the next couple of days, I complete my 100-kilometer week in Girona, following the 28-kilometer race course from the aptly named Run Through Trails, followed by an easy, flat, 7-kilometer morning run before starting the journey back to Berlin. But I won't be in Berlin for long. I've got just about 36 hours or so at home before starting my trip to Oman, where I'll run in the 5-day, 165-kilometer self-sufficient Oman Desert Marathon. Along the way, I'll talk to locals and runners alike who are joining me for the quote-unquote fun. There'll be plenty of sweat, blood blisters, and sand on sand on sand on sand. Oh, and did I mention the scorpions? See you in Oman.